What do you get when a London-raised American South African and a New York-raised Moroccan meet on the interwebs and become instant soul sisters? One of them, an Ayurvedic practitioner and transformation coach, and the other, a Conspire breathwork coach and Reiki master teacher. Both obsessed with wellness, family, entrepreneurship, relationships, and the magic of human expansion and growth. You get a whole convo. We truly believe that with an open heart, focused mind, and energy receptive to the possibilities, your wellness journey can guide you to a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. Welcome to our podcast. We're Ella and Ymane, and we are so happy you're here. Come vibe with us as we explore the wholeness of being through the lens of wellness. OMG, I'm so excited.
I can't tell you how excited I am for
This
this.
is this is just amazing. So can I say welcome to a whole convo with Ella and Ymane. Ah,
We are doing this.
here we are, our maiden voyage on our whole convo podcast. How
Can
are
we talk
you?
about that name, please?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Now, can you give the little story about how it came about?
What, the name or just us wanting to do this podcast, period?
Should we start with the name and then
I
we
think
can
the name is
backtrack?
definitely important, especially given that the whole is in caps now, and we've decided it is going to remain in caps because we are so serious.
It's so
We're so
hot.
serious about this wholeness of this whole situation and podcast. It's so funny because I was actually telling Nye, aka Hubs, that the name went through such an evolution, even though it was literally like in a matter of, minutes. It was just like,
Seriously.
okay, like 8 different names that we thought of and were obsessed with. And then we're like, wait, should we do a little research first?
Uh, that's so true to mention, isn't that? So, because you can come up with an amazing name and then there's something very similar, or someone else has that exact name.
Yeah, and even though, of course, I'm sure there's a million and one things out there like that, we were like, no, we want ours to not even, sometimes you'll find someone that has like your name or something and it's not being used. Like they have the Instagram handle or they have the domain, but it's like not, no posts, no, like there's nothing active. And you still feel like, oh, then it's still maybe like mine, but we didn't want any of that. We don't want any residue. We don't want anything.
Just crystal clear vibes.
Crystal clear vibes and a whole new name. A
A
whole
whole,
new
a
name.
whole one. Capital letters.
Hashtag caps lock. Okay, first of all, before the name, I quickly have to say how beautiful it was when we kind of just had that, I wouldn't say epiphany, but just that like common decision, if you will, that we're
Yeah,
going to do a podcast.
it's like that synchronicity.
Yeah.
Right on
Because
purpose. Was it a voice note?
you messaged me and it was in caps. When I said, "Are you serious?" You wrote serious with capital letters because I had been ruminating about this concept to do a podcast with you without actually telling you, kind of just like, when you're like, in thought. I think I'm sure like so many people out there, we've always thought about doing a podcast. And given that we're both, in the wellness field and we do a lot of other things as well in the space of coaching or mentorship and public speaking, a podcast just seems like, well, duh, like, of course. But obviously, I never had a podcast until now. And the fact that we're doing it together, I think is just so beautiful and magical. But basically, what happened was, I don't know what we were talking about, but you wrote in WhatsApp, we should start a podcast. You just wrote that. I'm sure because our voice notes to each other are just epic and it's just like, what are we? Who are we? Right. So when you wrote that, I like jumped. I got lit up because I'm like, duh, yeah. But then I'm like, wait, is she just saying that because we're like, because we are who we are and we're like silly like that and we are just also so deep. Maybe she's just saying it. So I wrote, "Are you serious?" And you're like, serious, capital letters. And I think that's it. Like literally the next like day, we were like, okay, when are we gonna start this podcast? What are we gonna do? Da, da, da. So that's a little context. And then when we were thinking about names, we're like, okay, well, let's take some time and contemplate and get imaginative a little bit. And you think of things, and I think of some ideas. And I think maybe a day or two later, I wrote to you. I was like, this is just brainstorming idea. Are you well? Question mark. And
And
what
I
was
love
your
that.
reaction, Ella?
I love that.
You loved it.
But do you know what was funny as well? It's you having that Br British English accent behind it. So,
Well,
Iman, yeah, yeah,
well,
Iman, you're a bit of a lover of doing an accent, which it tickles me. It really tickles me. So that was
guilty as charged.
it added something to the name or to the suggestion because it wasn't just like, are you well? It was like, are you well?
Yeah. Well, then we were in love with it. And then that was going to be it. And then obviously there was that London trip my sister and I, took. And then we were talking about the name and how we love it. And we're like, well, we should probably do a little research. And then we actually found out that there was
Quite a few
few,
things.
yeah, actually two other women that had, I think, that a podcast. And so we gave up on that really quickly.
Wasn't meant to be.
Wasn't meant to be. And we were like, fine. And then we just started contemplating some names and just bouncing ideas off of each other. And then a whole convo came about because we were saying something like, well, that's a whole other conversation. Like we were saying something and then we're like, that's a whole, and we're like, oh, and then it was like such a crazy download because I'm like, a whole convo, a whole conversation. And given that both you and I are so rooted in the wholeness of everything, not only in our work and what we do, um, we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but just like everything that we, I think, embody,
Mhm.
not only in our work, but also just I think who we are, right? Like our upbringing and our similar, morals and values and so many commonalities in our upbringing and roots and culture that
Mhm.
it's just it's so whole and deep, right? And so it just made sense. And here we are, a whole convo podcast with Ella and Iman. Here we go.
On our maiden voyage. So exciting with all the things. And I think it would be great from having that context and understanding or a brief introduction into where the name came from to perhaps give us a little introduction because obviously we hear Iman speaking, we hear me speaking. There's a little bit of difference going on in how the accent
You
comes
mean
over.
there's no difference at all?
It's uncanny. Are you from down the road?
It's just your neighbor.
Just yeah, she's down in the Shires. So I think it'd be nice to give some information about where our worlds collide and how we met. I think that would be nice.
I want to hear it from
Oh,
I
shall
want to
I
hear it from your side. I would
from
love to hear that.
from about me or about you?
No, no, how
Our
we met, like
connection.
how our worlds collided and you know,
Okay, so my version is
there's versions. Okay.
yeah, because there are. My version is this is how I experienced our meeting. I've been in different group programs from a particular mentor. She's out in the world, Melanie and Leah. And I'd been in several groups. It turns out we'd been in several different group programs together and hadn't connected. And then there was one specific group program which we both took round about, it started in May last year, May 2024. And we were both in that group. Things were happening in the group. We still didn't connect till I'd say like the end of July. It was around about the end of July.
Yes, end of July, early August, I believe.
And Iman puts this epic post into the Facebook group because there was a lot of information in this particular group program that we were in. And you know, when you're trying to make your way through the information, figure out what you're learning from it, try to absorb it, and also to be able to bring it to life through your own work. So there's a lot of like, for me, there was a lot going on in trying to assimilate and find the gold in this group program. And Iman puts this epic post, and it's like, ah, you know, like when all the angels are singing and things, because the words spoke directly to me. And in the tone of this post was an invitation for people in the program who are taking the program. Hey, would you like to get together? Let's support each other. Let's make the program work for us in the best possible way. Reach out to me if you're interested. And it was a lot more eloquent than that. And there was a lot more love and inspiration through the words in the post. And as I said, I read it, it was like, so I connected through commenting on that post, and Ymane went on to create a group. We had weekly meetings. We focused on our businesses, on applying what we were learning in the group program and bringing that into our lives in a more whole way. And that's how we connect. See that? That's how we connected. And that was towards the end of, I think it was towards the end of July, because the group meeting started in sometime in August. So,
Yes, yes.
and from there, we met up in person. So I'm in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. Iman, she'll tell you where she's from. And we connected that September. So the post was like July, beginning of August, did the weekly meetings, then we connected in person that September. She met both my girls, and that was quite rare because Nyla's in Birmingham doing university, so she happened to be at home. And then from that September, my eldest daughter and her girlfriend went to America in October and went and stayed with Iman and her husband. And
Crazy.
then crazy. And then from there we connected again literally last week. So in less than a year, we've seen each other twice. You've seen Nikki twice. And we've been like meeting on a regular basis. So that's my version of events.
Very accurate. Extremely. It's just, see, hearing you talk about it blows me away because, first of all, you are just incredibly, talented and gifted at just speaking from the heart and just, I can hear your like depth and soul. But hearing the story told again from that perspective, like how rare is that? Like, in what world, right? It's just so. I don't know. I'm just so grateful. But I will add really quickly that post that I wrote in that group, there were several people who commented and it was amazing. And we actually ended up having this beautiful group of women meet every week for definitely over 6 months weekly.
Yes.
And I held them
Yes.
twice a week for different time zones. So I had people from Australia also tuning in. So I did a morning one and a later in the day one for different time zones. And your comment, your response is the one I felt like the most connected to. Like as soon as I saw, first of all, I saw your picture because when you comment on Facebook, you see the little profile pic next to the text. And I was just like, oh, who's this pretty lady? Who's this gorgeous woman with her curly, gorgeous hair and her like goddessness? So I was like, oh, bloop, let me see what she's about. I was like, okay, obsessed. And just your words felt so genuine and so authentic. And everyone's did. That's why it was such a beautiful group. But for whatever reason, I just connected with you right away. And I think that's why the universe gifted us and handled our meetings in such a remarkable way. The universe was like, oh, you two, I got you. I
Mm-hmm.
see. I'm from New York. I live in Queens right now. I was in LA for a while, but my husband and I moved back home to New York. So we're literally in New York now. And like Ella said, her daughter And girlfriend came and stayed with us in New York in October. This is literally 3 months after we even like knew we existed on a Facebook post. And I'll never forget Nikki, which is your eldest daughter, her like reactions and remarks when I was there the first time in September. She was like, "What you mean? What you mean? You just met?" Like she couldn't even believe. She couldn't even believe that it was like such a short amount of time and how close we already were and the amount of trust and love and sisterhood that already existed there. And so that's basically the gist of, our little meeting. And of course, we also connected on the work that we do. We're both in the health and wellness world. We've been for quite a lengthy amount of time in very different ways and
Mhm.
very different, like, I think, modalities and all that. And I think that really was beautiful because seeing another woman, a South African at that. I'm North African. I'm originally from Morocco. Ella's mixed South African and American. And just that kind of that culture and that identity, right? That we don't so often see,
Mm.
especially in holistic wellness. I think it was just something that deepened our connection. It was just like this admiration and this, like respect and inspiration. Like when I see your work, when I see your social media, I'm just like in awe, honestly. And I'm not saying that because I love you and you're my girl and you're like my sister. Just from a professional, like outside individual looking in at all your work, all that you write, all that you do, I'm just in awe, honestly, like genuinely just so inspired by who you are and what you do. And so, to be able to converse and to bring like our wisdom and our thoughts and our experiences and our stories and our insight and our work to the world in this way together, like I'm just I'm so grateful. So this is what this podcast is gonna be rooted in. It's like us, our personalities, our truths, our roots, our culture, our work, like our experiences, and just really the wholeness of it all, right? Not only not only health, our families, the impact our upbringing has on our health, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, relationships, the physical, health of the body, all the things.
Mm.
All the things
Mm.
from a very excited, genuine, authentic place because that's just who we are.
Yes, and I just want to add one little thing because as you were talking, I think this is a beautiful part of our journey so far is the timing of things
Mm.
because we have been it's almost as though our worlds have kind of been running at parallel at various points on the internet where we have been in the same place at the same time, but for the perfection of timing, it wasn't until May 2024 that we would come into closer contact and into closer proximity
Oh,
for, all the things that we were going through personally as individuals and where that was taking us in our business, in our lives, in our growth as women, to be able to connect in the way that we did, to be able to hold the space, to be able to be here now. And I think that's such an important part of it. Particularly, I've experienced this, and I know you have, the frustration of things should be different, things should be, why aren't they, why I've been doing this,
right.
why isn't it at a different stage right now? And this is a perfect reminder that as long as you keep showing up, keep doing the things, keep being authentic to yourself, things fall in place when it's the right time.
100%. And to add to that, keep being whole. I think that's why we connected so deeply in on this and even the name and like our work, like Mind Body Veda, which is, my holistic wellness brand and company that is rooted and specializes in Ayurveda. The tagline is the Trinity of Wholeness, Mind
Mm.
Body Veda. That's what I wanted it to embody and identify because I wanted it to be more and deeper than wellness and health. Because what does that even mean?
Mm, mm,
It
yeah.
the definition is not going to be the same for everyone. And I always held a higher regard for feeling whole versus feeling well.
Oh,
Because
oh, can you say more about that, girl?
yeah, because well, my experience has taught me that there can be moments when I don't feel well. Like, and I mean like literally like I can have the flu or I like something happen. I mean, like right now, for example, I have a little hip injury. I'm doing what you call physiotherapy and what we call physical therapy here in the States. So it's like yeah, I may not feel well at times, or we may not feel well, but do I feel whole? And what does
Mm,
that mean for me? Oh, I just got chills saying that. Like, meaning, do I feel whole in the sense that I'm taking care of myself in this moment? Am I addressing the things? Am I being compassionate with myself? Or am I beating myself up because, oh, I feel like injured, I feel that? Or when we're sick, do we're like, oh, great, here we go again. Like, now I have a cold and I don't have, that's not being well to
mm,
me. And that
mm,
connects to being whole. But being whole and feeling whole just is like a lot deeper for me. And
mm,
it gives me that like beautiful awareness, if you will, that life isn't always going to be rainbows and lollipops and sunshine. You know what I mean? Like, even in like some of our toughest moments, and even in darkness or like really challenging periods in our lives, no matter what they are, no matter who you are. Because, we work with clients, like, we're in this health industry. Like, oh, I've seen clients who are suffering, I've seen people who are really hurting, and to kind of minimize like, well, you'll feel better if you do X, Y, and Z, and like
mm,
make it be this thing that like you'll feel well if you're checking off these things and it's like a guideline. Yes, there's an aspect of what we teach and what we inspire our clients to learn to better care for themselves, but there's nothing that anyone can do that's going to change what's already there. Do you know what I mean? Like what the truth is. What is the
mm,
reality? What's the
mm,
actual circumstance? And when you look at that circumstance and you can feel whole
mm,
around that, for
mm.
me, that is like that's health. That's wellness for me.
I really love that you said that. And it's an approach that we share in our work.
Exactly.
And I think I'd like to underline this part of it as well. It makes it takes the pressure off things having to be perfect. So if we are facing challenges, if things do feel uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that that experience is invalid, or that there's something wrong with us, or that we should be trying to move away from that because that's somehow not the correct place for us to be. It's a reality of being human, and in our ability to accept that and flow with that, we can feel whole. We can accept, we can trust that this is part of the seasons of life. This is part of the
Yes.
seasons of our experience. And without the light and shade, who are we? That's the beauty of being human. So, yes, girl.
I think that it's just so important to really talk about these things because especially, I will say this, especially in the health and wellness world, because whoa, girl, whoa, 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 whoa. It is so overwhelmingly saturated in a very, for the most part, unfortunately, and this is why we're so passionate about what we do. It's so deeply saturated in very, like, I think, non like multi-layered, non-multi-dimensional, non-whole ways. Like what a human being is rooted in is like the way they feel
Mhm.
in their body and in their mind, right? Their physical, emotional, mental, and even spiritual for some people, who really are connected
And
to
are very
elevating spirituality, right?
And I'll throw in energetic as well, because
Energetic, exactly, 100%. So when we look at the wholeness of that, right, what encompasses a being, so much of what's out there in the health and wellness, from what my observations, it leaves out so much. Or it'll only address one certain thing, forgetting that they're all interconnected. And then it'll just be this like immense amount of information, like it's boxes we're supposed to tick, or a very specific, confined, constrained way of eating, thinking, behaving, being. When I think both you and I, and this is another thing that I love about you, we actually are so passionate about exploration
and
and
curiosity.
curiosity and being inquisitive and experimenting. And not only with our own life and ourselves, and that's who we are, and how we even speak with our clients and how we work. It's like, what is the experiment for you? What would you want to explore to see? Then maybe the answers that your own body will give you, maybe the answers that your own mind will give you, encouraging and pushing people towards self-referral, towards the inner intelligence. And I think like that is, for me personally, I think that's like what's most missing in the health and wellness world. And I know we bring that up now just because obviously it's the majority of our world. But I think when we want to talk about like a whole convo, that is something that I feel a lot of people aren't talking about. It's just like, okay, this world that lives there, what are the right things I need to do? What are the right things I need to eat? And while those are aspects of health and wellness for sure, and it's not about ignoring them, is can we take a step back? Can we take a pause and look at the wholeness of the individual and respect them and honor their responsibility and power to actually dictate what may be best for them in this moment and in a different phase in their life. So I would love to talk about that a lot more in this podcast.
It's perfection. It's so true. And it just reminds me, just as a simple response to that, about how ingrained things are as we grow up into these beliefs that there is one right way and one wrong way. And we then disconnect from ourselves in all of the ways, because intellectually we have been it's been drummed into us that you're doing things right or you're doing things wrong. And that leaves such a gap, because then we don't actually trust ourselves to find out, okay, that might be right or wrong for you, but what does that look like for me? And what does that look like for my daughter or my husband or my sister or my brother? And again, coming back to that acceptance idea that we can all have a version of what that looks like. And if we don't know that that's available because we've closed ourselves off from that, we've shut that down, we can really be creating unnecessary conflict within, and just making so much pain, so much unnecessary energy going off on tangents in the wrong direction. It just, when you were speaking about that, that really came to my mind. And it's so exciting because that is a whole convo in itself.
Yeah, totally.
It's a whole convo.
That is a wrap on this week's convo. We had a blast talking to you.
Thank you for sharing your time, hearts, and minds with us.
We hope this episode left you thinking, feeling, and maybe even breathing a little deeper. If it moved something in you, please share it, text it to a friend, or just sit with it.
Remember, the power of change can start with the simplest convo.
And if you have any comments or thoughts you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do so. We'd love to connect with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our show so you never miss a moment of the magic. And if you're curious about any of our services and offerings, check out the show notes for all the links and goodies. We're so grateful you're on this journey with us. Until next time,
stay rooted, stay whole.